Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, Collecting Place Names of Citizen Science Projects in Valmiera, Latvia. My name is Anna Al. I am the Information Coordinator of the Science and Technology Library section, and we're very happy to bring to you this webinar today. And for future events, we have another webinar on the 30th of March, which is about science popularization at the National Library of Public Information in Taiwan, reading science civic literacy. It's very long, I know. And we will, the registration isn't open yet. When it's open, it will be available. It will be accessible through the following channels of the Science and Technology Library section. So, yep, you can find us through these channels, and we will also share other related content there every now and then. So that's afterwards. So that we have housekeeping rules. Please turn your camera and microphone off. And if you have some questions, please put it in the Q&A section of from the meeting panel, or you can also put in the chat, and we will monitor the chat every now and then. And we will collect the questions for after the webinar. So that's all good, I think. And I will stop sharing my screen, so we will have our speakers to share the screen. Okay, good. So our speakers today are Alīna Pūce and Agita Lapsa. So she's somewhere. Yep, she's the other person with the camera on. So they are there. So I will pass the whole thing to you, Alīna.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name's Alīna, and this is my colleague Agita. We are here at one computer together today. I'm going to be doing the presentation, but if there's anything that Agita wants to say or help me with, she will do that in our language, in Latvian, and then I will translate that to English. So that's why we're together today. Yeah, I'm going to share my presentation and then introduce you to the topic that we're doing today. Okay, I hope you can see my presentation. If at any point something is not working or you don't see something that I'm sharing, please tell me. Yeah, Agita and we are from Latvia, from Valmiera Library, and we will be telling you today about a citizen science project that we were involved in. I will tell you a little bit about how we got involved in it, what organizations we were doing it with, but mostly I really want to focus on the project itself, of what we were doing, the specific things that we were doing, and to tell you about some of the challenges or some of the little specific things that were interesting to us, and also a little bit about the impact that we've had from this project, which was a very, very good, and that's why we are here as well and telling you about our experience in this. Okay, I'm gonna I think blur a little bit of my background because I have some interesting snowman gallery behind me. Okay, so about the project, we were involved in a citizen science project that took part that was organized in the whole Europe. Just otherwise, you're gonna see Agita and on and off again. This is a European citizen science project that took, it was a few years from 2022 to 2025. The organization that did the project was European Citizen Science Association, but public libraries were involved through Public Libraries 2030, an organization that is very, very important for public libraries in Europe. They advocate for public libraries on a European level. And we have a close relationship with them. And sometimes when they have some great opportunities, they ask us to join. And this was one of those times. Before this project, we didn't really get involved with citizen science. We didn't really have that larger understanding about citizen science, even though I think in all libraries of the world, citizen science is something that we know and we have maybe be doing, but we wouldn't call it like that, or maybe call it monitoring or something like that. But when we got involved in this project, we had no idea what they meant with the citizen science. We were just like, yeah, we want to do this. And because they promised us to have a lot of training, we kind of trusted that we would, learn more about citizen science and understand it. And that really came true. And in 2022, we didn't know much about citizen science. Now we kind of feel like some of library experts in this and know what to do with citizen science in libraries. And why are we really excited about citizen science and why it's important to us and what we see in it? Well, one of our library's priorities is helping people be more active in their local communities. I think a lot of libraries can say the same, but for us, it's really like well, the communities in Latvia sometimes don't understand the importance of their, their impact in everything that goes around them. And there are a lot of tools that you can use to kind of activate the communities, and citizen science can be one of them. It can bring people together. It can show you that one small thing that maybe you're just collecting data or that you're sharing memories or something, it can lead to something bigger. It can help researchers, it can help scientists. And you can see your role in your local community, and you can help preserve local culture and local history. And of course, it was important to us to have that training, to have that knowledge. And I will tell you about that a little bit later as well. So the project that we did, this was in 2024, also in 2025, but most of the activities we did in 2024. So we focused on collecting place names. This was a project that we chose because we wanted to integrate the citizen science part with something that we're already doing in the library. I think when a lot of libraries think about citizen science, the first idea is something about natural sciences. Either it's, watching birds, watching trees, nature, something. The first ideas are always about nature, about topics like that. But here in Valmiera, my colleagues and also administration, they really started to think about how to put citizen science together with some of the things that we're already doing. An idea came to collect place names, because this was a topic that was already started a little bit. And we knew that in Latvia there is a national database that already a few years back kind of made this, I don't know the right term for it, but a marketing strategy or something to gather a lot of place names throughout the country. And for our region, we didn't really have a lot. So this was an opportunity to push forward with this collecting place names project, but also do it together with the citizen science topic. So in our region, those were 32 public libraries that were involved in the project. And it basically was about three things. One is actually marking places on a map, putting the location on a map, telling stories about the place names, and taking and collecting photos. Because when we talk about place names, it's not just where it is, it's also about why it's called like that, and also preserving how it looked maybe 20 years ago, maybe 100 years ago, maybe today. And yeah, I have to mention as well, what is a place name? Because I think a lot of us maybe have an understanding of what a place name is, but not everybody. And well, place names can basically be everything that is around us. It can be a house, it can be a bridge, it can be a tree, a rock, a corner, a street. It can be anything. It is always something that people, you recognize this place by that name, and it doesn't have to be an official name. It's mostly something that people just use, and a lot of them don't even know why. But there's always a story behind it, so it's very, very important to gather those stories. And also, place names tend to change with every generation, and in about 50 years, the place names can change again. So preserving the names that were before or are now, it can be very beneficial. So this is a map of Latvia, and I have circled around our Valmiera region. And these are all of these little dots are the place names that have been added to the database. Before, our region was just as empty as most of the other parts in Latvia. This picture is actually a few years back, made, I think, in 2024 at the end of it. So we might even have more, but and on this slide, I can tell you a little bit about the challenges that we had with the website itself, because during all projects where you have some online resource that you need to use, you also have some challenges with the databases. And this map is not really working anymore, so I can't get a new picture. And throughout our project, it was very difficult also to put the names on the database, because we had a little bit of problems with adding pictures to it. And the database is, well, it's specifically made for everybody to be able to register and to add their names, because it's very important to have different perspectives. Like for the same place, two people can name it differently, can have different pictures, different stories, so everybody can join. But it also leads to having mistakes, having mistakenly put it maybe in another location, or calling it just misspelling words or something like that. And now, after the project for us is mostly done, we are now trying to solve some of the mistakes that have been made in the database. So what we focused on in the project were two target groups. One of them were seniors and the other were teenagers. Of course, we asked everybody to join. It was public. We put information on all our channels and everybody could join, but we specifically wanted to work more with seniors and teenagers. I will start with the seniors, and the reason why we wanted to closely work with them is because this is the generation that we need to ask questions to. We need to listen to them. We need to preserve their knowledge, to understand what what their memories are. And in terms of collecting place names, if we don't write down the place names that they know, they will disappear after. So it was important for us to work with them more closely. And what we did were storytelling events. We did a few, I think two. I'll just check in my notes. Yeah, so we did two storytelling events in Valmiera. Of course, we did some personal interviews, used a lot of personal connections. Then in a small village in Ramata, there was a little community that was very, very active in this project, and they had a small project on their own based on this as well. They had 6 expeditions for finding specific local places and gathering information and photos of those places. And these were places that don't exist anymore. So that's very, very rich information to kind of gather around a place that doesn't exist anymore. Gather the stories, gather the pictures, and then we can save that, we can preserve that in our library, and also add all of that information in the database for the researchers to use. And then in Seda, a small town in the region, there were 2 trips around town with stories about place names. And in a town, Massalatsa, they did a photo exhibition where people could bring a lot of photos of the place names, and then everybody could gather around the photos and put additional commentary on the photos. So you ended up having a lot of discussions, more stories, more place names, and in the end, they also did an event with all of these stories and discussions. So for seniors, what I wanted to mention is that it's not just the benefit for us to preserve the information, but for seniors, this can be also very, very good for their sense of identity and sense of belonging to the local community, because it's always important to kind of remind them that their memories and their stories that they have are very important. And it's not just important to write it down for another generation to read, but it also can be useful for research, for science. And then, people are always, especially, they feel very good if they can explore something of their local neighborhood and tell everybody how important it is for them. Yeah, of course, we had a few challenges with this target group as well. Well, the first thing that we did in this project was in every library, and most of these libraries, most of the 32 libraries are one-person library. And in each of them, there was kind of a spot in the library where the marketing information about the project was, and also a large map. Because for seniors, it's very important to have that physical map where you can take a look at it and figure out where some place names, where do you want to pinpoint it, where do you want to tell a story about it. But providing the libraries with these maps were not that easy, because large print maps are very, very expensive and very hard to get. And sometimes, for some libraries, they had very old, large maps, and they were fine with that. And then for some libraries, we printed out parts of a map and just stuck them together. And that was okay as well. But yeah, this was a challenge for us, because digital solutions are easy maybe for us to understand, to kind of open a map and just put a location on. But for seniors, it's not always that case. And also, if you have a space in the library where you can see the large map, you can get some conversations going on. You as a librarian, you ask your reader to come, let me show you something. We're doing this right now. Is there something that you would want to add? And then they can maybe, if they don't have anything they want to share, they can see what others have put on the map and kind of, start talking about that. And another challenge, of course, was to get the seniors to get involved, because it needs a lot of personal connections, which is not always very easy. And during that time, and still it's a challenge, that we have a lot of new librarians coming in, and maybe they are not from that local community. They have come here from another part in Latvia. But it also can be a good thing, because even though they maybe don't know the people around them, this project was an opportunity for them to get to know them. So it was a challenge and also a good thing in some way. And then we worked with teenagers, and the main purpose of that was to get the place names from this generation. And we wrote down quite a few place names that they shared with us. But also we wanted to do some educating for them, kind of introduce them to citizen science, and get their perspective as well. And you can see some of the things that we did. They collected their place names. We did an introduction to citizen science, a lecture. Then we did a workshop. Then we did artificial intelligence workshop. And at that time, in 2024, our AI was very hot topic, and we kind of used it as something enticing for teenagers to come work with us. But it also was very useful for them to understand language, to understand how language can be used, and how AI solutions don't work as well if it's not in English. Then we did also a guided tour around Valmiera, and teenagers were also the ones that added a lot of place names to the database, and they took photos of places as well. And we made a multimedia exhibition together, which I will show you. Of course, with teenagers also came a few challenges. The first one was how to even reach them. They use other communication tools that we don't necessarily use. One of the examples is TikTok, that they use a lot, but we don't, because of many reasons, but it's not a place that we can communicate with them. So we used other resources, but it doesn't just stop there, because the communication habits that we have and teenagers have, they are very different. And sometimes they would not even respond to our texts or to our calls, or wouldn't call back, or wouldn't tell us if they didn't plan to show up. They would promise that they would come, and then they wouldn't come. So you can imagine how it is to work with teenagers. And we don't really, well, we have experience with working with the youth, but it's always easier to do that with youth centers, with schools. This project required them to work on their free time, maybe actually do something at home or in school on their own. So it was not that easy, but it was a very good experience, and we have some lessons for that as well. And of course, teenagers are very busy people. Sometimes they are the most busiest from all of us, and it's not always easy to find that middle ground where you have people that aren't really busy every day, but also want to do something. And then on 2024, the topic of place names was kind of the topic of the year. We did a lot of activities with it, and European Researchers Night was one of them. It was very interesting to see how different generations react to a lot of place names. You could see how people understand that they are in bubbles, and in their bubble, a certain house would be called one name, and then they would realize that in another bubble, people call it something entirely different. So that was a very interesting night. But having these projects gives you an opportunity to kind of put it in other things as well. So we always wanted to kind of expand that one topic that we have to other places that we can do. Yeah, and this is the exhibition that we did together with teenagers. We wanted something visual to end the project, and we asked teenagers how they would kind of put the place names out there for everybody to see. And sometimes we expect teenagers to have like insane creative ideas that we wouldn't. But in this case, they were excited to do just a poster exhibition. So that's what we did. But together with them and some of our colleagues, it was developed into a little bit more. And in the exhibition, we put three perspectives. One of them was the actual reality. It was a photo of a specific place. And the photos were taken by the teenagers, the librarians, some of the readers. Then there was a fantasy part where we worked together with Latvian children's schools in Sweden and Iceland. And these children were offered a list of place names without any context, without any description. And they chose one of the names and just made a drawing of their associations, anything they thought it would be. And then the third part was the AI part of the exhibition. And our teenagers that worked on the project, they had a task of using the place names to make up stories or poems about these places. And then they would have to communicate with the AI tool to kind of make it into something that is representable. And we also did a digital part of the exhibition. I'm not sure if I can open up this link today because it didn't work before. I think it's not working now as well. But I will share the link in the comments after you can see the exhibition. In it, we put all of the place names that our teenagers told us to. It wasn't all of the names that we were collecting, but the specific names that the teenagers used. And then we put all of these things together. You can see here the picture of the real place, then the drawings of the kids, and a poem of the place that was made with AI. And there's also a map and obviously all of the material in the digital exhibition as well. Yeah, so I will end my part with the project impact that we had. We added in the database more than 3,000 place names, which is a very large number for, well, I would say quite a small project that we had in the Valmiera region, because it was just one region. And if we did something like that throughout Latvia, it would be a very, very large amount, which would be great. So obviously the name collection itself is a very large work and very, very good for researchers, but it's also great to preserve cultural heritage, all the conversations and interviews and storytelling events that we did. It's a good material for the library itself, not just for researchers on the database. And it's very important to be identifying and mapping lesser known sites and maybe places that have discussions on where they were, if they're not existent anymore. And of course, educating the public about citizen science. And we feel that citizen science in the last couple of years is a topic that everybody is talking about, not just in our library, but in universities and everywhere. So we felt very good to be a part of all of this. And we're happy also to have the visibility on European level with this project, because our approach of combining cultural heritage with citizen science has been very successful. The project is also included in Project Success Storybook, and our experience is used as a case study in some materials and webinars like this. So I'm very grateful to be telling you about our project here. And the last link over here, I will share that with you on the chat as well, is a case study of this project. If you want to read more about it, then you can open it up and take a look. As the last slide, I just want to share some of the resources that you can use if you're starting with citizen science in your library. European Citizen Science Platform is a great website to use. It's been made in the last few years. It's very new. You can already see all of the numbers here. They have a lot of information, a lot of projects that you can see and maybe join in or just have some information about. Then European Citizen Science Association, which is a great way to kind of keep up with things. There are working groups that you can use, and to work a list of working groups. You can get involved and get some more information about it. I think there are, you can see the working groups here. There are very many topics that you can join in. And the association has also been very, very open to libraries. They've told us on multiple occasions that they have the financial tools to give to libraries to have some projects. So they are very open to having libraries in their association as well. But you have to be a member. But I don't remember the exact amount for the membership, but it was very, very low, even affordable for very small libraries. And then I wanted to share that in Europe, there are citizen science ambassadors. They were a part of the European Science project, but even though the project will probably end at some point, the list of these people is a very good resource to start with if you want to have some help on going through with the project. So every country has one ambassador that you can use. And we had a lot of, for Latvia, it's Sanita Reinsone. We had a lot of cooperation with her, and that was very, very successful. And the last thing I want to share is SciStarter page. This is an American page. Maybe some of you have already seen it or done some courses in it. It's very, very valuable. There's so many information and resources you can use. They have a specific part of it for libraries. They have a very large network of libraries that are part of citizen science in America. Not all of that is very useful for European libraries, but a lot of it is. And I wanted to share with you, first, there are a lot of resources. Of course, they are in English. As for us in Latvia as well, we understand that not always that is very very usable if it's in English, but you can translate that. And then when I scroll down, there are professional development opportunities, but basically these two courses are very, very interactive, easy to go through, and very valuable if you want to know more about citizen science and how that can help you in library work. We went through both of these trainings during the project. And basically after learning these two modules, we know everything about citizen science in libraries. So I encourage everybody to start with this. So that's a very good resource. Okay, I think I've told you everything I wanted to share. Thank you very much for listening. I'm open to answer all of the questions if you have any, and I will put some of the links in the chat that I mentioned.
Okay, so does anyone have any question? Maybe I can start myself. So I want to know, what do you think the necessary infrastructure is to start a citizen science project at someone's at a library that has never done anything like that before?
Well, I think it depends very much on the topic that you're doing, but I don't think there's really a lot of infrastructure that you need. If you want to do some citizen science project, the easiest thing to do is to find something that is already going on, a national project, a European level project, a global project, and to just do some marketing in it, do some event with a target group that you want, and to kind of get them involved. And then there's a lot of projects that offer some tools that you can use in your library. And if that's a project like that and you can get the tools from them, that's perfect as well. So the first step, I think, is to find a project that you can just use on your computers or to just go in nature and do on smartphones. And you don't really need anything for that.
Yeah, so speaking of that, I think you refer to iNaturalist, the platform that we can use.
Yeah.
We can have an application on our phone to take pictures and try to identify it. And it's a whole thing, it's a whole webinar, so we're not getting into that now. So that that's more like, so we don't start anything from scratch. We find something that's already established, but we apply the citizen science methodology for our library. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that is the best thing for libraries because I think every librarian would agree with me that we would never want to do extra workload or put more and more work for our existing work. So it's always the smartest way to find something that just to integrate with what we're already doing, and then to help people understand both of those things, to explain citizen science and to also put that as library work.
And how, because you mentioned that that's already a national project at the placing project at national level, and I want to know how did that come under your radar, and then you just thought, oh, that could be a project with this methodology. What is the connection that makes you think that?
Yeah, this is probably the part where Agita would be the best to explain, but she already knew about the Place Names project before, because the institute that is developing the website and doing work on that project is someone that we knew here in Latvia, and it's been already cooperation with them before. So we knew of the project before, and Agita is working on cultural heritage topics here in our library, and she wanted already to do something with place names, but we didn't really have that what exactly and which where to go with that, and the citizen science project just came at the right time. Yeah. Sorry, she will tell me a little bit.
Ar mūsu palīdzību viņi veica veselu rindu uzlabojumu tajā platformā.
Okay, Agita says that we also helped with some of the improvements on the database before. So that's why she already knew of the project itself.
So that's already, so does it mean it's already a priority or some kind of activities at the library before that, and you said, oh, that looks very feasible, let's try to do it like that?
Yeah.
And based on what else do you want to do and at other projects, or do you want to continue with the place names project?
Well, we definitely are going to continue a little bit with the place names project. We have, because we, during this European Citizen Science project, we worked on it in 2024. It was the topic of the year. And then we kind of went along with it in 2025 as well. Our idea is to also make kind of small, I don't know how to call it, brochures or magazines, small little these things where to put down all of the place names. We'll see how that goes. And then the place names can also be used in making like games where you go through the city, you find the place names, you find some stories, you have some tasks. And so this is a very good foundation for other things. You can use that as library work, as your local community exploring. And it's very good to kind of keep working on that. Yep.
And so any other questions from the audience? I don't want to dominate the whole Q&A. So if you have any question, you can leave it in the chat or in the Q&A, sorry, the Q&A section of from the Zoom panel. So, and then I will read it out loud so everyone can hear it. Maybe if you have something of a citizen science project. Oh, that's a question. So Maria asked the questions. Did you also ask for the expertise of dialectologist, ethnologist for this project?
We didn't really go into that part of researching the place names. I think that is if you're a librarian in a small library, that is the most encouraging thing to think about, is that you don't really have to go into the research part of whatever you're doing in that citizen science, because obviously we had a little bit of conversations with Latvian Language Institute that are doing this project, that the national database and everything. But all of the research part about the place names and everything, that's going to be on their behalf, they're going to do, and we're just collecting the data. Because in citizen science, you can do a lot of, you can just collect the data, or you can be a part of other parts of the research process. But for libraries, I think the easiest part is to focus on some of the small things that you can do and not really go into too many details and too many scientific things, because that is what makes it very complicated. And if it's, well, for example, a one-person library, that can be a very challenging topic if you think you have to do like sciencey things.
So we pick the part that our capacity allows, and we don't. We start with something small and we grow from that.
Yeah, that's the best, the best way.
So speaking of that, I want to know what happened to the names you collected, because you mentioned that that's also in the library's collection, and what did you do with the data you collected ever since?
Well, we've had a lot of discussions about this, because well, adding the place names to the national database, and then if you want to preserve it in your library as well, then you're doing the same thing in two places. So we really try to avoid doing anything twice. So that's why this is a topic still of our discussion. We have lists of the names that we've added, but we haven't yet decided if we're going to do like a special collection of all of the names that we have added into the database for ourselves or not, because of the fact that we don't want to, those 3,000 names, that's a lot of amount to kind of double it in two places. That wouldn't be really smart for us. Yeah, it's still a discussion for us.
And any more questions from the audience? Maybe you could also share a project your library has done or planning to do, or it's ongoing or something, and we can share the knowledge and we can also have a discussion about that and see, because the thing is, if it's in a different context, it means you know something others don't know, and something that you believe it's the norm isn't for others. So we could learn from each other. If you have something like that, we would also like to hear about that. Okay, there seem to not be questioned yet. And by the way, because we talked about the collection, so you did an exhibition on the names, and would it be another edition of the exhibition with like what new names you collected after the first iteration?
Do you mean for the national database or our?
Because you said that you would like to continue with the place names project, and in the first time you did it, you end up having an exhibition made with the participants. So with the new place names that are later added to the database, are you planning to do some kind of a similar exhibition as well at the library?
Probably not, because the exhibition was also part of the project financing, and so that was the opportunity that we had to do the exhibition. But we are thinking about what I mentioned, the small magazines or some kind of the brochures or something, and that would probably also have some of the place names that are added after our project, or something new that would come up. We would put that in there as well. Yeah.
Good to know. And let me take a sip of my coffee. Yep. So this is like essentially a citizen humanities project, because it's not natural science, but it's still citizen science methodology. And is your library also planning to do something on natural sciences with citizen science methodology?
Well, during the project, we had two other activities that we did. We had one science, I don't know how it's in English, science research center, or natural, not important, but a center that came to the library, and we had also some of teenagers that came and they went outside, explored nature. They also talked about citizen science, what it is, and so we did a couple of these things as well. We had a road trip to go around the region and to explore natural streams, and some of the lecturer that we had, he's also an amateur scientist, and so he told about what he is doing, about the websites that you can use, and to put some data in. So events like that, I think, in the library have been done before as well, but we didn't really put it together with the term citizen science. We will probably have events like that as well. But in terms of larger citizen science projects, we are now very open to things like that, but we would need to plan that ahead. And right now, after this project has ended, we have a few other priorities, and then we will think about that in the next years as well.
That's good to know, because you're building on what you have already achieved, and you're trying to grow it. And you mentioned that with the tours with teenagers at a stream or something like that. And I mean, that place is a place, and that place has a name, and this is like the intersection of natural sciences and the humanities. So it's like that's always intersection. It's not a clear cut, and you can always find connection or like an entry into another discipline. So so although it's not exactly natural sciences, but that is a connection. So I'm really happy to hear that you a project that uses this methodology for a humanities project, because we don't hear a lot, at least for my in my professional circle. I really don't hear a lot. And so when I saw your project, I was extremely excited, because it's something different, but it has a connection to natural sciences. So that's perfect. Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're also very willing to share with librarians that are maybe, well, if they're in small libraries and you don't have the capacity to take on big events or big campaigns or something like that, and you don't even have to know a lot about it yourself. There's always someone else that you can ask to come and to explain things, and if you can do something of the citizen science that is already librarian, that's very in your everyday life, that's just so beneficial.
Yeah, good. Yes. So Alina also put the links in the chat. So if you want to know more, can go back to the chat and find the information there. If you came in late and you missed something, you can always contact me, the Science and Technology Library section, and our contact information is on IFLA's website. So, and then I will put the links again, where to find us, so you can ask us for further information if needed. So thank you so much for coming to this webinar, and it has been almost an hour. So thank you so much. Thank you, Alina and Agita. Just like, so maybe she could also show that there she is. Thank you so much. And
Thank
this is
you.
very
Thank you.
inspiring. And to the audience, if you want to share a science-related project with the library community, you can also send us an email to suggest a topic, or do you want to volunteer to talk about your project? We also welcome that. And yeah, and our sections, the Science and Technology Library section's next webinar is on March 30th. The registration will be open by the end of the month. So stay tuned with all the links I just provided, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much.